After 10 years of hard work, I was paid with disrespect at my job. Still don't understand why. It was a late Tuesday night when I stayed late in the cramped office. The buzzing fluorescent lights flickered, and I hoped my efforts would finally be recognized. My colleagues barely acknowledged me, and I felt tossed aside like an old tool. I pushed through paperwork, organizing files, trying to catch up. While I was rummaging through a dusty cabinet, I found an old project proposal. It looked odd, worn, and faded. The title was almost unreadable under layers of dust. As I flipped through the pages, I saw strange notes scribbled in the margins. Words like cursed, do not proceed, and the echo repeated on almost every page. I felt a chill creep up my spine. Was someone messing with me? As I tried to focus, I heard whispers from the break room nearby. I didn't catch the words, but the laughter felt cruel. I shook my head, telling myself it was just the tiredness playing tricks. I forced a chuckle, thinking about how paranoid I was becoming. But deep down, I worried. What if they were conspiring against me? The next hour, things grew worse. I looked for a contract that I had just printed, but it was gone. I searched the office, but it just disappeared. I felt my heart race. My co-workers passed by, whispering, glancing at me with smirks. I thought they were laughing at me. I felt dread building within me. I was sure they were plotting, but I couldn't understand why. I went back to my computer. While I typed, strange messages popped up on the screen. "Leave now," one read. Another said, "It's too late." I stared at the messages, confusion flooding me. Was I losing my mind? I shut my eyes and took a deep breath. When I opened them, the messages were gone, replaced with regular emails. I rubbed my eyes, trying to shake off the fatigue. I decided to confront one of my co-workers, Sarah. She was the friendliest in the office. I walked to her desk, trembling. "Did you hear those whispers?" "What's going on?" I asked, my voice shaky. She frowned. "Mark, we just got here. No one's been whispering." The way she looked at me made my stomach twist. I heard a low murmur behind me and I turned around. There stood a group of my colleagues, their expressions unreadable. They chuckled softly, their eyes glinting with something I couldn't quite place. Just then, the overhead lights flickered violently before shutting off entirely. The room fell into darkness. I felt cold air brush against me. A feeling of dread flooded my body. I called out, "What's happening?" My voice felt weak. Then, I heard a whisper right next to me. "You should have left." I whipped around to find nobody there. The fear settled into my bones. Was this all in my head? My heart pounded in my chest. I wanted to scream, but the words caught in my throat. I turned to run, but the door wouldn't budge. I was trapped, alone, in the dark. And then the whispers began again, louder this time, echoing through the silence. I never understood what was happening. Was it all real? I pressed my back against the cold wall, heart racing as the whispers became a cacophony of sound. "You should have left," echoed louder, as if it came from deep within the shadows of the room. I struggled to make sense of it. Were they really here? Or was I losing it? Suddenly, the lights flickered back on, casting harsh fluorescent beams across the office. I squinted at the sudden brightness and scanned the room. Everything looked normal. My colleagues were back at their desks, typing away. Were they really as oblivious as they appeared? I felt like I was in a poorly made film where the protagonist was trapped in a nightmare. I glanced around, wondering if I really had lost my mind. The cabinet where I found the old project proposal loomed in the corner. I felt compelled to go back to it, driven by a mixture of fear and curiosity. If there was something to uncover, I needed to know. As I reached the cabinet, I noticed a small symbol carved into the wood, almost hidden beneath dust. I brushed away the grime and revealed a jagged, triangular shape with a circle inside. The chills returned. I wondered if it was related to the notes on the proposal. Just then I felt a presence behind me. I turned quickly to find Sarah standing there, her expression one of concern. "Mark, are you okay? You seem off." I hesitated, unsure how to explain what I had experienced. "It's just a lot of stress. I can handle it," I replied, forcing a smile. She raised an eyebrow, clearly not convinced. "Maybe you should take a break. I can cover for you." Her voice was soothing, but something in her eyes felt off, like she was hiding something. I shook my head. "I'll be fine." I stepped closer to the cabinet, unwilling to back down from whatever this mystery was. I pulled the proposal from its dusty nest again, hoping to find something that made it clearer. "Mark, please don't." Sarah's voice fell into urgency, and I felt an overwhelming desire to defend my choice. "Why? What do you know?" The look in her eyes hardened for a moment before softening again. "Just trust me." I was about to respond when I heard the whispers again, but this time it was different. It was a name. Mark. Mark. My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't distinguish if it came from my mind or the office around me. In a tense moment, the lights flickered again, and shadows danced across the walls. Sarah's face changed, emotion flickering like the failing lights. Before I could process what was happening, the door behind me finally gave way, swinging open with a creak. I stared wide-eyed into the hallway. The strange sensations in the air mixed with Sarah's concerned gaze. I was left standing at a precipice, a decision weighing heavily on my shoulders. I could run towards the darkness of the hallway, or stay and confront whatever was building behind that proposal. But that urge to leave pulled at me. That's when I saw it again, the symbol. It seemed to pulse with energy, as if it was alive. I had to know what it meant. Yet something screamed inside my mind to run before it was too late. "Mark," Sarah's voice cut through my thoughts. "Please don't." But I was already moving forward, propelled by the fear of the unknown, and as I stepped closer, the whispers grew louder, drowning out all rational thought. As I reached out for the proposal, a shiver ran down my spine. The whispers coalesced into a single, desperate plea. "Mark, you need to leave." The words were insistent, foreign, yet familiar. I could feel the weight of the room pressing down on me as if it were alive, closing in, ready to reveal its secrets. I gripped the proposal tightly, my hands trembled. Sarah stepped forward, her eyes wide and desperate. "Don't do this, Mark," she pleaded. But the urgency in her voice only fueled my resolve. I had to find out what was happening. I pulled the proposal from the cabinet, the stale air around it almost crackling. I opened it, expecting to see the mundane charts and graphs I had remembered. But instead, the pages were filled with scrawled notes and strange symbols. They were the same symbols from the cabinet, the ones that felt charged with energy. My heart raced as I recognized not just their shape, but their meaning, ancient warnings perhaps. Then, without warning, the lights flickered again, throwing the room into darkness for a heartbeat. I blinked, momentarily disoriented, and when the lights returned, I saw the change in Sarah. Her face was drawn tight, her brow furrowed. "Mark, just listen for once," she shouted, her voice breaking through the haze of the moment. "Why are you scared?" I challenged, anger flaring within me. "What are you keeping from me?" Her eyes darted to the hallway behind me, fear etched into her features. "It's not just the proposal. There are things here, things you don't understand." Before I could respond, I felt a draft sweep through the office, colder than anything I had felt before. Papers swirled around me as if caught in an unseen wind. The whispers morphed into a low, grating roar, drowning out the logical part of my mind. I turned back to the proposal, determined, even as panic threatened to consume me. Then, suddenly the room went dark again. The pounding of my heart filled my ears as I stumbled, trying to regain my footing. I felt Sarah's hand on my shoulder, but it was gone in an instant. The shadows twisted and turned, taking form. They reached out to me, but I wouldn't let them. Not now. I gripped the proposal tighter, feeling the pages slip in my hands, and that's when I caught another glance of the symbol, glowing faintly, almost beckoning. I had to know. Over the cacophony, a singular voice rose above. It called my name once more, urgent and raw. Mark. I tore my eyes from the glowing pages and looked at Sarah, who was now standing by the door, her eyes wide with fear. "We need to go. Now," she yelled. But before I could answer, shadows erupted from the corners of the room, swirling around me. I stepped back, the sensation of cold wrapping around me like a vice. I was caught in a tug-of-war between instinct and curiosity. I had to get out, but I also had to know what this all meant. Just then, the whispers grew hushed, as if waiting for my next move. And deep down, I sensed that my choice would unlock the truth, but at what cost? "Mark." Sarah's voice broke through again. "Make a choice." The air crackled with anticipation. I took a step toward the door, and everything shifted. I felt the ground shift beneath me, a subtle tremor that sent my heart racing. With one step, I realized I had no chance to back down now. The room felt alive, the shadows taking on a menacing, swirling shape. I clenched my fists, determination surging within me. Before I could move again, the darkness thickened, and an icy gust pushed me backward. "Mark!" Sarah's voice sliced through the air again, sharp with urgency. But the moment was a blur. I could barely register her presence as I was enveloped in shadows, and I fought against their pull. "Help me!" I shouted, not sure how or why I thought that would change anything. The echoes of my own voice bounced back, distorted and mocking. I felt my sense of reality waver. Was I really in this office, or had I crossed into some other realm? I again squinted at the glowing symbols, fighting to decipher their meanings among the chaos. Then, suddenly, everything froze. The shadows paused, suspended in time. I took a deep breath and focused on the proposal. I flipped through the pages, searching for any clue, anything that could explain this darkness. That's when I saw it. A name I vaguely recognized among the notes. Thalia. It was scratched hastily, almost as if it had been added in a moment of panic. I could feel my brain racing to make sense of it. "Thalia," I whispered. "What? What did you find?" Sarah asked, urgency still etched in her features. "Who is Thalia?" My voice sounded steadier than I felt. She hesitated, a flicker of recognition passing over her face. She was a colleague. She disappeared months ago. "Mark, you can't—" Before she could finish, the shadows surged forward with renewed intensity, closing the gap between us. The temperature in the room plummeted, making it hard to breathe. The whispers returned, louder now, a cacophony of desperate voices. "Thalia needs you. Find her." "I won't leave you," I shouted, my words nearly swallowed by the roar surrounding us. I searched for Sarah with wild urgency. "We need to get out of here. No, don't you get it? If you find Thalia, you may not come back." Panic turned her face pale, and I felt another cold shiver run down my spine. But I couldn't turn away. I didn't want to leave her, and yet the call to discover the truth was intoxicating. Could I really allow this opportunity to slip away? Would I become another ghost in the shadows if I pursued this path? I thrust the proposal into Sarah's hands, the symbols glimmering ominously under the dim light. "You have to help me figure this out." The lights flickered again. I turned just as an unnatural chill swept through the room, and then everything went dark again, deeper and more suffocating than before. I could hear Sarah's frantic breathing next to me. "Mark!" A lurch of dread filled my stomach. I braced myself for something, anything, to happen next. And in that moment, as the whispers ramped up in volume, I realized I was no longer choosing to confront the shadows. They were choosing me. The shadows wrapped tighter around us, a shroud of darkness that felt almost sentient. My heartbeat pounded in my ears, drowning out everything except the whispers that warped and twisted through the air like smoke. "Find her," they urged, each word chilled with desperation. "I don't know how," I shouted back, frustration tinged with fear ripping through me. I scanned the corners of the room, looking for an escape. But all my senses were enveloped in this suffocating void. Sarah's presence near me was comforting yet terrifying at the same time. I wanted to reassure her, but how could I when I felt just as lost? Then, without warning, a burst of light flickered into existence in front of me. I squinted against the brightness, and the world around us transformed momentarily. The office appeared again, normal, mundane, but tinged with an electric energy that hummed just beneath the surface. I reached out instinctively, seeking the light, desperate for clarity. As I stepped closer, the figure of a woman materialized within it. Her long hair cascaded around her shoulders, and though the details were hazy, something about her seemed familiar. Thalia. I breathed out her name like a prayer. The moment I spoke it, the shadows hissed and recoiled, as if they were attacking the light that illuminated her. "Mark," Thalia said, her voice a mere echo, caught in a whirlwind. "You have to understand." "Understand what?" I cried, feeling the walls closing in around me again. Everything tugged at my insides. "What happened to you?" She looked around, eyes wide with fear. "They took me. The darkness, it's hungry. You mustn't give in." Her form flickered and the shadows roared in fury. I could sense their anger growing, emboldened by her return for even a fleeting moment. Riveting my eyes on her, I steadied my voice. "How can I help you?" "Destroy it. The shadows feed on fear and despair. They thrive in the unknown." Her image grew fainter. I reached out, desperate not to lose her again. "Mark, you must fight." But just as her warning sank in, the light extinguished, and I was plunged back into darkness. The palpable weight around me returned, intensifying with a suffocating dread. "Sarah, did you hear that?" I turned toward her, grasping at hope amid the swelling fear. "Yes, but Mark, the shadows are getting stronger. We need to go." Her eyes darted nervously, scanning for an exit, yet I felt wild energy buzzing in my veins. I couldn't abandon this pursuit now. Somehow this was bigger than me, bigger than us. "Wait!" I shouted, pulling her to a stop. "We can't just run! Thalia, she said we have to destroy it. Destroy it! Are you out of your mind?" Sarah's voice trembled, her panic rising. "You think we can just fight shadows?" "Maybe not fight, but confront," I said, conviction rising within me despite the fear. Suddenly, a low growl echoed from deep within the shadows, rumbling like thunder, sending a jolt of terror through my body. The whispering voices became a tumultuous roar. "She's coming back," they screeched, feverish voices intertwining. Before I realized what was happening, the shadows lunged forward. I felt Sarah's grip tighten on my arm, but I was rooted in place, a deep instinct pulling me toward the oncoming chaos. I had to know. I had to confront whatever lay ahead. Then, from the vortex of shadows, a grotesque face emerged, terrifying and familiar. My heart dropped as I recognized it, a distorted version of my own. "Mark!" Sarah shouted, panic-stricken, and just like that, I realized that whatever had taken Thalia was now hunting us. I stood frozen, staring into the distorted reflection of my own features. The lack of recognition twisted my gut. It was me, but twisted, contorted with rage. "What do you want?" I shouted, half expecting an answer, half hoping this nightmare would simply dissolve. "Mark!" Sarah pulled at my arm, trying to drag me back from the abyss of my own fear, but I felt tethered to that horrid visage, as if it were siphoning my strength. "Don't look at it," she urged, panic rising in her voice. "We have to move." but I couldn't turn away. The shadows around me writhed and pulsed like living creatures, their whispers now a cacophony of taunts and jeers. "You'll never find her," they hissed. "You'll never escape." I felt a surge of defiance. "Shut up," I yelled. "You don't get to control me." The words surprised me. They echoed in the air like a battle cry, igniting a flicker of bravery. With a deep breath, I stepped closer to the shadowy figure. "You're not me. You're a lie." I knew I was shouting more to myself than to the creature before me, but it felt like a spark of clarity in this blinding chaos. The grotesque face flickered, momentarily revealing its true form, an embodiment of my insecurities, fears, mistakes. Sarah was shaking beside me, her grip still steady on my arm. "Mark, please." The fear in her eyes grounded me. She needed me. I needed to be the person I wanted to become, not this twisted version the shadows wanted me to believe. "Fight back." Thalia's echo rang in my ears again. Her call fueled my resolve. I reached out, not physically, but mentally, pushing against the shadows that were trying to drown me. An energy welled up inside me, a mix of anger and determination. "I will find Thalia!" I shouted. And with that declaration, the dark figure shrieked and twisted violently, as if struck. For a moment, the shadows around me swelled back, pulling away from my conviction. "Mark, let's go." Sarah pulled me again, and this time, I didn't hesitate. Together we bolted toward the exit, the oppressive weight of the darkness easing slightly as I focused on our escape. But as we ran, it became clear the shadows were regrouping. Behind us, the distorted visage morphed, taking on the features of those who had once doubted me, co-workers, friends, even family. Each face was a reminder of the times I felt unseen, unappreciated. The shadows roared with laughter, feeding on my memories of failure. Suddenly, the corridor ahead flickered with the same electric energy I had seen before. "This way," I shouted, gesturing to Sarah. We sprinted toward it, teeth gritted against the rising tide of shadows that threatened to claim us. As we reached the glowing portal, the walls around us trembled. I had a brief moment of clarity. If the light was here, it meant there was a way to fight back, to truly confront the darkness. Then everything went dark again, but this time in the darkness, I heard one last whisper. "You can't hide from yourself forever." I had no idea what lay beyond the portal, but it felt like the only way forward. With a fierce determination igniting within me, I knew, for better or worse, I would face whatever came next. As I stepped through the portal, the sensation was like jumping into icy water. A shiver ran through me, but I could see again. Light flooded my vision, bright and almost blinding. I squinted against the brightness and took a moment to let my surroundings settle. We stood in a vast, open space. The air felt different, lighter, almost electric. The ground shimmered, shifting between shades of blue and silver, like a calm ocean under a bright sun. I looked around but saw no signs of the darkness that had chased us. Instead, there were strange, translucent structures rising all around, resembling both futuristic buildings and ethereal trees. "Where are we?" Sarah's voice trembled slightly. I could hear the fear under her questions, and my own stomach twisted at the uncertainty. I don't know." I took a step forward, feeling oddly drawn to the largest of the structures, a towering form that loomed ahead. It glimmered faintly, as though it held some sort of power. As we approached, I noticed the surface of the structure shifting, images flickering like the pages of a book. Each image caught my attention. A memory, a moment in time. I saw faces of people I knew, but also strangers. Events from my past blended into one another, creating a tangled web of laughter, sorrow, and regret. "Mark, stop." Sarah pulled on my arm, but I felt an irresistible urge to keep moving. This was my past laid bare. Maybe it could give me the answers I needed. Why had the shadows chosen these memories? What was I missing? My fingers touched the surface, and immediately a surge of images flashed before me. I saw the day I lost my job, my colleagues' faces twisted with indifference. I recalled the long nights spent wondering if I could ever be enough. The feelings surged, a heavy wave of anger and sadness crashing into me. I turned to Sarah, my voice thick with emotion. I have to see this. I have to understand. "Mark, you don't have to do this," she said, her eyes wide with concern. "We can find another way." "No, this is the way." My heart raced as I pulled back, determined to confront the twisted shadows of my past. "I can't keep running from this." Then, as if in answer to my resolve, the surface of the structure rippled, and a voice emerged, clear and echoing. "Face your truth, Mark," I faltered. "What do you mean? Your path is not just about the shadows." The voice hummed through the air, resonating deep within me. "It is about reclaiming the light." Before I could process what that meant, I felt the ground tremble beneath us. The shimmering landscape warped and rippled, and suddenly, the air shifted. A wave of shadows surged towards us from behind, clawing its way out from the depths of the portal we had just escaped. "Run!" Sarah shouted, and her panic jolted me into action. We sprinted toward the towering structure, the shadows rushing after us. My heart raced. I had to reach it. There was no turning back now. As we reached the base of the structure, I glanced back, dread pooling in my gut. The shadows were gaining ground, and the whispers returned. "You cannot escape yourself. You will pay for your choices." With one last deep breath, I faced the shimmering surface. Time slowed as I reached for it again. This was my moment. The moment I would either confront my past or let it consume me. But then I froze. The shadows loomed larger than ever, and I realized they were not just chasing me. They were forming something, an enormous, terrifying figure gathering strength. "Mark, now," Sarah urged, fear evident in her voice, but I had to know. I had to confront it. That's when I saw it, an unmistakable face emerging from the darkness. A face I knew all too well. The figure stepped forward, its features sharpening into view. My chest tightened. It was my former boss, the man who had belittled me day after day and taken credit for my work. His eyes glinted with an unsettling confidence, his smile a cruel imitation of friendliness. "Mark," he said, his voice dripping with mockery, "still trying to run from what you are." I felt the shadows swirling around me, their fingers grabbing at my ankles, urging me to retreat, but I would not let this tormentor make me run again. "I'm not afraid of you," I shouted, my throat dry. "Then face it, face the truth of your failure," he taunted, stepping even closer. The air grew thick with dread, and I could feel Sarah's presence waver behind me. I shot a glance in her direction, her eyes wide. She was scared for me, and that ignited a fire inside. "No!" I shouted again, fighting against the grip of the shadows. "You don't define my truth! I've grown past you!" But those words felt thin in the air, like a flimsy shield against a storm. He laughed, a terrible sound that echoed through the luminous landscape. "Is that what you believe? I see your memories. I see your doubts. They drown you, Mark. You can't escape who you are." "But I can change," I shouted back, anger and desperation flooding my veins. "I'm not that person anymore." The landscape shifted again, and the terrifying figure began to fracture, splintering into countless smaller shadows that swirled around me. I felt their cold tendrils tugging at my soul, whispering all my insecurities. "You will always be a failure," they echoed. "No one will ever want you. Stop it. You're lying." My voice shook, yet I pushed against the tide of despair. Somehow, deep down, I knew what I had to do. I turned fully to the structure, hoping it would lead me back to myself. "Show me the truth," I called out, fingers brushing the surface once more. "I need to see what's next." In response, the surface rippled violently. Images shot forward, pulling me in like a whirlpool. This time, they were different. I saw moments of joy, milestones I had achieved. There was laughter with friends, the pride in my mother's eyes, the satisfaction after completing a project I had worked tirelessly on. Each memory fought against the darkness that clung to me, but alongside the happiness came a fierce light, illuminating my doubts. I felt the weight of those negative feelings, but the brightness of my positive experiences surrounded me. I began to understand. "I can't let you control me," I yelled. As I embraced that understanding, the shadows around me faltered, wavering in their stance. The figure stepped back, confusion crossing its brow. "No, you're mine." But with each steady heartbeat, I felt stronger. "I'm not going back." Then a sudden crack ripped through the air. The structure pulsed with energy, and a blinding light erupted from its surface, washing over everything. The shadows screeched, unraveling into smoke and whispers. For the first time, I felt hope. "Mark!" Sarah cried out, her voice pulling me back to focus. "It's working!" I locked eyes with her. This was our chance. "Let's do this together." Before me, the light expanded, opening a pathway that beckoned us forward. I knew then we wouldn't just escape. We would reclaim everything they had taken from us. But as I prepared to step through, a chilling realization washed over me. The figure was not gone. It was regrouping, ready to strike again. I took a breath, sensing the urgency. "It's not over, is it?" I whispered, bracing myself for the next challenge. The light brightened, wrapping around me with warmth. But that comfort was short-lived. I could feel the atmosphere shift, and the shadows began to regroup. My former boss, it was like he was feeding off the chaos, his figure reconsolidating into a solid form. "Do you really think you can escape me?" He sneered, confidence seeping back into his tone. "I am a part of who you are. You cannot outrun your past." I tightened my fists. "I'm not running, I'm facing you." But deep down, doubt gnawed at me. Would I be strong enough? My mind flashed to the moments of my past, every belittling comment, every failed attempt. "Mark." Sarah's voice pierced through my thoughts. She was standing beside me, her expression fierce, unwavering. "We have to keep moving. Together. Remember what we just saw." Her words sparked something inside me. I glanced back at the swirling staircase of light, knowing it was a path worth taking. "Right. We can do this." The figure began to stretch forward, reaching out as if to claw at me. I stepped closer to Sarah, refusing to be pulled apart. The rippling light seemed to pulse in response to my determination. "Let's go," I shouted, gripping Sarah's hand tightly. Together we pushed against the pressure of the past, toward the expanding light. With each step, the heaviness that clung to us lessened. "Stop." The figure advanced, its voice rising in fury. "You think you can outrun me? You'll always be my puppet." As I concentrated on the memories of my triumphs, a surge of energy coursed through me. "Not anymore," I roared, twisting to face the shadows again. "You don't own me." With that declaration, I surged forward, forcing through the light. The warmth enveloped us, and I felt a rush of energy. My heart raced. We were moving, lifting upward, but the howling of shadows was relentless. "We're almost there," Sarah yelled, her grip steady and firm. "Don't look back." But in that moment, a bizarre sensation washed over me. I caught a glimpse of something in the shadows, another figure, lurking at the edge of the swirling darkness. My stomach dropped. "Wait!" I shouted, yanking Sarah back. "There's something else. Someone else is here." The swirling darkness split slightly, revealing a shadow that flickered, like the memory of a face I once knew. A different specter from my past. It was my best friend from college, a face that had been buried under years of neglect and disagreement. "Mark," the figure cried out, but it sounded broken, twisted, as if once the truth was revealed, there was only pain left behind. "You need to listen." The bolt of recognition hit me hard, a jolt of confusion. "You? Why are you here?" "I'm not your enemy," the shadow pleaded, desperation lacing its voice. "I'm here to help you, if you can see beyond the pain." Around us, the light flickered again. It felt like a challenge, as if we stood at a crossroads between the shadows and the path ahead. The past closed in, but I sensed the flicker of hope. A pathway untangled was emerging, one that could lead us away from this. I turned back to Sarah, urgency boiling in my chest. "We have to make a choice. Should we listen or keep going?" The shadows wavered, and I felt the pull of the unknown intensify. It was all or nothing. What if listening meant uncovering deeper truths? Who could I trust? "Mark, what do we do?" Sarah asked, her eyes wide, brimming with uncertainty. At that moment, everything shifted. The illumination around us dimmed, and a low rumble echoed through the air. "Choose," the voice bellowed, shadows stretching menacingly closer. I took a deep breath, feeling time slow. The choice loomed before me, and I could feel the weight of their fate hanging in the air. It would change everything. I stood at the edge of two worlds, with shadows on one side and a flickering figure of my past on the other. The darkness whispered lies, urging me to succumb to its grasp. But the light shimmered, promising clarity and hope. "Mark." Sarah's voice pulled at the threads of my resolve, her fear mirroring my own. "We can't stay here. It's too dangerous." "Wait," I called, heart pounding in my chest. "What if he's right? What if we've overlooked something?" The shadow pleaded, its voice marred by an echo of pain. "We were close once. You need to remember why. You need to face what happened between us." Images pressed against my mind. The laughter, the arguments, times when we had let misunderstandings fester instead of being honest with each other. This figure was a mirror of my past mistakes, but the inundation of the present was threatening to erase even those memories. The shadows next to me grew restless, hungrily curling around my feet, urging me not to dwell in thoughts of connection or vulnerability. "Forget them. They only hold you back," they hissed in a chilling chorus. "No," I declared, my resolve igniting. "I won't run away anymore." Sarah's grip tightened on my arm, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and encouragement. "Mark, please, I'm scared of what this could mean." I turned back to the shadow. "Do you remember our last conversation? It was an argument, a stupid one. I held on to anger instead of accepting our differences." "Exactly." The shadow surged forward, desperation edging its voice. "You've let fear dictate your relationships. You can't afford that anymore." The room throbbed with energy, shadows shifting and swirling, drowning out the light that flickered on the periphery. "Mark, choose!" The distorted figure of my former boss rumbled, his tone cutting through the cacophony. "I can see now," I said, spine straightening with renewed determination. "I have to face the truth of my relationships. It's not just about what happened in the office, but with everyone I care about." I met Sarah's gaze, and for a moment we both breathed in the gravity of the moment. We can't let the shadows win, not just for us, but for everyone we've lost along the way. The light intensified as I stepped toward the figure of my past, the familiar face trembling with an expression of yearning. "I can't undo what happened, but I can still learn from it," I said, hope lacing my voice. "We need to move forward, not dwell in regret." The shadows screamed, a chorus of fear and anger. "No, you will be swallowed whole. You cannot escape me." With each step closer to the flickering figure beside the structure, the shadows recoiled slightly, reflecting their fading power. The synapses in my mind fired as realizations flooded me. I understood that reconciling didn't just mean facing those I had wronged. It meant accepting my own flaws, even the ones the darkness has whispered to me. "Mark, don't!" Sarah shouted as I reached my hand toward the figure. But it was too late. As my fingertips brushed against that flickering presence, a shockwave ripped through the air, a blinding light expelling the shadows of my insecurities. The figure of my best friend shimmered in and out of focus, growing clearer. "Forgive yourself, Mark, just as I have forgiven you." The ground beneath me quaked, and the oppressive weight lifted for the briefest of moments. The swirling chaos dispersed, revealing glimmers of the truth beneath. The connections I cherished, the good outweighed by past negativity. My heart surged. "Together," I breathed aloud, turning back to Sarah. "We can work through this." And on some instinctual level, I took her hand, our bond igniting a shield against the darkness. "We will face all of it, together." Suddenly the shadows screamed, wavering with a malevolent energy. "No, you cannot unite. You cannot embrace the light." But the truth was tangible now, a force that fueled me and enkindled Sarah beside me, lifting us. The world around us cracked and rippled, fragments of light breaking through ever more sharply. "We do not fear you," I yelled, standing tall against the barrage of memories that sought to pull us under. "I will not give in to the shadows." As the light shone brighter, I could see the figures of my past, all the faces etched into my heart, my family, friends, and colleagues beginning to join us, their images weaving into a tapestry of resilience and unity. The shadows shrieked, twisting and squirming, but they were losing their hold. Each face in the light became a hand grasping mine, fortifying my resolve. "This ends now." And like a great storm releasing its hold, the shadows dissipated into nothingness, dissolving into echoes of whispers that faded to silence. We stood amidst a kaleidoscope of light, breathing heavily as the reality of what had passed broke through. The ethereal landscape shimmered with the colors of untainted memories now, each one a reminder that the past can't define us, but it can guide us toward who we want to be. "Mark," Sarah breathed, eyes wide with awe. "We did it. We faced them." But as her words hung in the air, I couldn't shake the lingering sense of unease. Shadows were not just products of guilt or fear. They represented every unspoken conversation, every relationship left unresolved. They faded for now, but surely they'd remain, entwined in the fabric of our choices, waiting on the fringes. "I know," I replied quietly, uncertainty brushing against the contours of my thoughts. "But if they ever return, we have a choice to make." The uncertainty lingered, an echo of the struggle we had just faced together. The shadows may have lost this round, but I knew they could return. "Let's find our way," I said, heart still racing as I turned away from the ethereal landscape, knowing that the journey to reclaim my truth had only just begun.